What's good, YouTube? What's good, everybody? This is Boxingwave, and we're back with another video. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. All right. Let's talk about Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia again. Just gonna bring you guys up to speed a little bit. Tank fought Hector Garcia, knocked him out a couple weeks back or last weekend. Okay, and the part of the plan was this was pretty much his tune-up. You know, we know that Hector is a formidable opponent and everything, but Hector was his tune-up match for January. Um, both parties, both Tank and Ryan's camps, has said that they agreed to have the fight in April. That the fight was agreed on for April, whatever that means, because that means a lot of things. They'll say the word sign, you know, that it's official. The fight was scheduled. They'll give us dates. They always do that. And then things come out later, you know, especially when things begin to fall apart. Where are we at now? Well, earlier this week, Ryan Garcia did an interview on MMA fighting on SBN, right? He did a good interview, a very good interview, probably his best interview that I've ever heard, because I actually gained some kind of respect for him, right? Before this, I didn't really care. It's not that I disliked him. I just didn't really care for him that much. I thought he was talented, but just like many other fighters, I was just waiting to see what he could really do when he's in there with a real good fighter. You know, and I haven't really seen that. I thought Luke Campbell was a really good fighter. And that was a good step up for him at the time. But I can't compare what he's doing to what some of the other fighters that has done and what they've done at 135. All right. So he gave a good interview. He brought up a lot of things. He talked about, you know, the Tank fight and everything behind it, everything that's been said. You know, he answered all the questions right. And we'll get to that. All right. But he did that interview on that platform a few days ago. That was released. And the major thing that he said in that interview is that the PBC, or at least Team Tank, they didn't want him to have a fight, a tune-up fight, at the end of last year, 2022. Okay, now we know that he was going to try to have one in January, in this month. I don't know if that affected that, because there's been a few things. There's a lot of information that's coming out later, and it totally contradicts what has been said before. Ryan recently, I mean, weeks ago, maybe a month ago, he said he's not going to have a tune-up before the Tank fight. This is when Hector and Tank got announced that he wasn't going to have a tune-up. He wanted to go straight to Tank, and he didn't want a tune-up. He was going to have one this January. He didn't want one. When we knew that Tank was having one, he said he wants to go straight to Tank. Tank responded in an interview saying part of the reason why he probably didn't want to have that tune-up is because he wanted to cycle off whatever juice he was on. All right? This is what Tank said on camera, right? So Ryan was not going to have a tune-up, but Ryan, in his recent interview he did this week, he said he was trying to work out a fight somewhere in between October, December, somewhere around then, and Team Tank did not want him to have a tune-up. All right? So that's what's been said. And as early this morning, very early this morning, Oscar De La Hoya randomly comes out and leaves a tweet saying, "I have no contract. Deadline for me is Monday, or I'm moving on." And he hashtags Davis Garcia. All right. That was 11 hours ago. All right. And it has everybody on Twitter and social media talking about this fight. Is it in jeopardy? All of this stuff because of this one tweet from Oscar. Okay. Now, before I go any further, if you are new to this channel, I just want you to understand my stance on this fight and these two fighters. And I've said this, if you've been around, you see my videos, you already know my stance on these two. I have, for at least the last year or so, I put Tank and Ryan in a different space than the other top fighters at 135 and even at 140. They're on a different space. And what I mean by that is, even though they're pro boxers and they're really good, talented fighters, the two of them, Tank is definitely more proven, more seasoned. He's been around a lot longer. But even though I know Tank has won a title, a major title, I know he's won a couple of junior titles in 3 different divisions. Cool. I feel like those two are just in a separate space from the Devin Haney's, the George Kambosos, Vasil Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez, and all those other fighters, even Shakur, who's now moving up. Those other guys are looking to win major titles in different divisions, unifications, undisputed, stuff like that. They're doing the legacy stuff, right? They're doing the title stuff, which doesn't seem like Ryan or Tank really cares for that, basing on the way they're moving and the things they say. All right. Because when Ryan was legit at 135 and he was on the come up, and him and Devin Haney were both on the come up, same age, fighting the same type of fights. Devin Haney was the one that was pressing him for a fight, stepping into the ring, looking to face him. He wanted to face Ryan Garcia. Ryan always fell back, made it seem like maybe in the future, maybe or sometime I'll fight you, but never really seemed to be interested, you know? And same thing with Tank. Tank, when it comes to Devin Haney, when it comes to Vasil Lomachenko, when it came to all of these other fighters, names that came up over the years, even some of the names that came up at 140, when Tank had that fight at 140, there was a lot of talk, but Tank, at the end of the day, fights who he chooses to fight. It may not be a champion, okay, of any sort. It may not be a fighter that we consider to be pound for pound or one of the top contenders at that division. He'll fight somebody from 130. He'll fight someone from 140. But it'll be whoever he chooses to fight. Not somebody, usually not someone that we're asking to fight. No one was asking for the Hector Garcia fight. No one was asking for the Rolly Ramirez fight. No one was asking for the Isaac Cruz fight, even though I know he was a replacement. No one asked for Mario Barrios. No one asked for Leo Santa Cruz. No one asked for any of these fights. And we haven't got a fight that many of us has been asking for. So I put Tank and Ryan in the space over here because even though they're pro fighters and even though they are fighting good fighters, right? They're kind of like, they're not too much different from the YouTube guys. They're not looking for legacy. They're not looking for belts. They're looking to make money and fight big names. They're not looking to fight the best or to proven to be best, because Tank really might be the best. Orion might be the best. But we don't know if they're the best because they're not fighting any of the fighters that are accomplished, right? More accomplished. You know, they're not fighting any of those guys. So I don't know how good they really are. I know how good they look against the opposition that they face. And they face some solid fighters. But, you know, I mean, Tank has fought better fighters because he's been fighting a lot longer. All right, but they're still hand-picked fighters. They're still hand-picked. He's fighting who he wants to fight, or at least his team is putting him against who they want him to fight. Let me say that, because I don't know if Tank is in any control of who he's facing, and I don't know if Ryan's in any control of who he's facing. I really don't know. I know there's a lot of talking. I know there's a lot of names that come around, but the names don't match the talk for either one of them. And I'm a huge Tank supporter. You guys know that. But I have to be honest. Like, he's not giving me the fights that I want. He's giving me solid opponents consistently. They're all good. But they're not Haney. They're not Shakur. They're not Loma. You know, they're not Ryan. They're not Teofimo Lopez. You know, and that one fight, he did dip into 140. He didn't fight the guy that I wanted him to fight. He didn't even fight anyone close to that. Mario Barrios was still very green. You don't know where you know what I'm saying? You know, he had a couple of good fights, but It was not someone that I felt like Tank was gonna lose to. I like the challenge of the size difference. And Mario did box well, but we saw what happened. What happened is what we saw. All right. So my stance is I never thought this fight would really happen. Once they start building up a fight, as in being one of the best fights or biggest fights in boxing, which is how they've been promoting this fight. You notice in every interview that they do, they say, well, this fight is like one of the biggest fight in all of boxing. It's bigger than Spence and Bud. It's bigger than Fury and Usyk. They say the same thing every day. They're talking about other big names that's in the sport and how this fight between Ryan and Tank is even bigger than that. Well, we're yet to really see. We don't know. We don't know if that's true. We don't know because they might really just fight each other and do 250,000 pay-per-view buys. Now, they may do more than that, but what if they don't? It's hard to really call with these pay-per-views sometimes. They just don't perform like the way you would expect them to sometimes. I know Spence and Mikey Garcia did good numbers. I think Tank have done over 300 before. All right, so maybe they will do a good amount of numbers, but I don't know if this is bigger than all of these other fights. They may be. And I'm not even trying to argue that. But what I'm saying is they're promoting it as this is one of the biggest fights in all of boxing. All of it. And when I hear that, when I hear it all the time from these journalists, it makes me think this is going to be at least a 3 to 5 year buildup. So no, I did not think this fight would happen in 2022. No, I still don't believe this fight happens in 2023. Plus, we have another obstacle. Tank got trial next month. Hopefully, for him, he beats this trial so we can get this fight, maybe. But according to Oscar, he's looking for a contract tomorrow. Tomorrow is Monday. Now, few questions. Ryan Garcia said in his interview, in this very same interview on MMA Fighting on SBN, he says, I've seen the contract. I'm pretty 100% sure that this fight is going down. Regardless of all the obstacles, this kid sounds very confident that he's going to beat Tank. So he's saying, well, I'm sure. I've seen the contract. Everything is done. What he says, I believe everything is done, but I don't know what kind of contract. I don't know if he saw a draft. I don't know what he saw. I don't know if he signed it. I don't know what was agreed on. Okay? But we have obstacles. We have Tank have trial coming up. We have all of these things that, from what we're seeing from Oscar now, it looks like the fight is in jeopardy. And people will say, like I've heard people say, or I've seen people, I read people in the tweets say, why are you going public with this? Why are you taking to Twitter instead of talking to the people that needs to send you the contract? Well, it could be one of two things. Maybe he is clout chasing. Maybe he's not really trying to go forward with the fight and maybe he has an out. Maybe he does. Or maybe he's going public because they've been trying to work this out behind the scenes for so long and he's making it public that, yo, we're still waiting from Team Tank to send us the contract so we can take the fight because we're sitting out waiting and we can't wait any longer. Like, we got to move forward if we're not going to get the fight. I can't be mad at him for that, but we don't know what the truth is. It could be either or. Maybe he has been working out this situation or trying to work it out with Heyman or, whoever he needs to be working it out with. And maybe they're slowing everything down. Maybe they're second guessing whether or not they should take this fight next. Maybe they felt like Tank didn't look so good in this last fight and they're a little concerned about putting him in there with Ryan Garcia. Maybe they're having second thoughts and things are slowing up. Or maybe Oscar is just lying. Maybe this whole thing is just to help build up the fight. Keep talking about it. Give it a few days. Talk about it some more. This could be part of the promo here. This tweet might be part of the promo. We don't know. We don't know. Maybe the fight is agreed on. And maybe this is all just more bullshit to keep the fans talking about them, like I'm doing right now. So with that being said, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't believe the fight happens right now. But one thing I do feel from watching that interview with Ryan and listening to Tank and hearing about some of the demands here, like if it's true that they blocked him from having a tuna, it makes me a little concerned about how they feel about Tank's chances of winning. Because we do know that there's some kind of catch weight, and I believe the catch weight is 136, which is not even a catch weight at that point. You know, I mean, you're clearly trying to drain the dude. He hasn't fought at lightweight in 2 years. He's growing. We talk about it in this interview here. You know, Ryan looks kind of jacked for his size, I mean. So when we say he's big, I mean big for a 135, not big like in general. But he's saying he's about 150 right now. And he says he's normally, or I guess his highest is like 155. It may be more than that. I have no idea. All right, but he's a big dude for the weight. He's bigger than Tank. And he's going to keep growing. You know, he's probably going to be finishing his career at junior middleweight or middleweight at the very top of it, at the most. He'll probably take a big fight at middleweight towards the end of his career, you know, or in his 30s. Tank is not that big. I think Tank, at the very most, and he's older, at the very, very most, we're going to see him at 147. At the very most. You know, I can see him taking another 140, but he's not growing like that. You know, and he might be getting a little heavier, but 140, I say 147 tops. You know, I think 147 it'll be the absolute limit to where I see Tank fighting for a title at. But I am a little bit concerned about Tank. And these demands make me concerned about, like, they want too many advantages here. You know, you don't want the kid to stay active. And I'm talking about Ryan. You don't want him to stay active. You know, you don't want him to come in at his weight that he's been fighting at. It's like, damn. Makes me like, do they really believe that Tank can beat Ryan? Or they just to make, just to be sure, they want to drain him a little bit and make sure that he hasn't fought in a while. You know, because Tank went and had a tune-up. But stopping Ryan from having one definitely has me a little concerned about how they feel. It seems like they're not too confident about Tank, regardless of what the fans say. They don't sound too confident in Tank's ability to win this fight against Ryan. This is from the outside looking in. And I'm gonna end this video with this. This is why I feel like fighters like Devin Haney is so disrespected. You know, because I know Haney's not giving us the knockouts that these guys are, but at least Devin Haney is trying to fight the best. You got to give him credit. He's about to fight Vasyl Lomachenko, knowing that he's struggling to make 135. He's still going to stay and fight Vasyl Lomachenko. And it looks like the fight is going to be in May, at a time where he really didn't want to have that fight that late in the year. He wanted it in March. He's ready for it. Devin Haney, you got to give him credit. You know, he wanted the Lomachenko fight. All right. He settled with keeping that junior title. All right. He wanted Loma. He wanted Tio. He was pressing these guys. He's pressing Teofimo Lopez. Annoyingly. Same with Ryan. Same with Tank. These sparring matches that we've never seen, there's a lot of trash talk. There's a lot of rivalry between the two. And he's wanted these fights. He's wanted these fights. Now, I don't think his route of everything is perfect. I think that he could have pushed harder to get that WBC fight with Lomachenko. I think him and his dad could have pushed harder. But for the most part, he's been wanting to fight real fighters. Top tier fighters. Fighters that his chances of winning were a lot slimmer. Now he got undisputed, and it's good for him. He was able to be patient, and he got his opportunity, and now he's made history. Right? So good for him. But he doesn't get the credit he deserve because these guys are getting more attention based on a fight that may not even happen. They're both using each other's names to promote other fights. And I'm just trying to get you guys to wake up and see what's going on here. Yes, these guys are pro fighters, but they're the pro fighter versions of the YouTube fighters. These guys that are just fighting each other, Slim and FaZe Tepper and KSI and Jake Paul and all these guys. I don't know who any of these people are, but they know how to promote themselves. They already have, they're content creators. But these guys are just chasing big names and having safe fights in between. Fights against credible opponents, but like they're a heavy favorite to going into the fight. Exactly who's going to win. Stylistically, these guys are fighting people that are not really dangerous for them. Now, upsets do happen in boxing, but that's not part of the plan of these fights, like with Tank and Hector. Yes, they happen, but that's not part of the plan. The matchmakers, they know what they're doing. Same thing with Ryan. Javier Fortuna. We know Javier Fortuna is a good fighter. But we know that he's out of his league fighting Ryan Garcia, especially at 140. He's out of his league. Ryan is even stronger and bigger at 140. Javier Fortuna ain't even done anything at lightweight yet. He's a featherweight. A super featherweight at most. You got to give credit to these other fighters. Teofimo, yes, he took a loss. He's going through hard times. I'm not sure where he's at mentally, but I give him credit because he's taking tough fights. He fought Loma. He fought Comey. He fought Nakatani. He fought, Cambosos. I give him more credit. I do. Even with the losses. Even though he's a little loco. He's a little crazy. Things ain't right, but I give him credit as a fighter. I give him credit. Same thing with Devin Haney. I give him credit. Lomachenko, of course. Give him credit. Disrespectful. Loma. Of course, none of these guys moved perfectly. None of them did. Loma did some things, said some things I didn't like. He moved in some directions, but for the most part, he's fought who I wanted. And a few people that he didn't fight is because they didn't want to fight him. I wanted him to fight Tank for years now. I've been saying that I think Tank is ready for Lomachenko. I said this years ago. I never got it, though. I never got it. They seemed like that side seemed like they were just too good to give Loma a shot to fight them. Let's be honest. Let's be real. They seem like Devin Haney they're too good to give Devin Haney or George Camboso, who when he held the 4 titles, a shot. They're just too good for that. Because they sell out arenas. And I understand from the business side, I get it. But you guys are all business. When it comes to being the best, you're not proving that. You guys are the best at selling out arenas. But are you the best fighters? That I don't know. You look like you are. Tank look like he's one of them boys. But I want to see it. I want him to prove it. But you got guys like Lomachenko. Guys said he was a fraud. People said he was a fraud. Well, I remember when they thought he was a fraud and he was ducking Guillermo Rigo. But then when he beat Guillermo Rigo, everybody tends to forget about that. He's beating all type of fighters. Can't hate on that, man. He beat Gary Russell Jr. in his prime. He retired Nicholas Walters. He retired him. He had Mikey Garcia run up to 147 to fight Errol Spence. Mikey didn't want to fight Lomachenko so bad that he decided to fight a freaking killer at 147 than fight Lomachenko. But somehow Ryan and Tank seem to be the biggest fights. Based on what? Well, based on just casuals. And the casuals count. They count. But the real boxing fans are hurting. Now, I'm not reacting in the same way as everybody else because I didn't think this fight was going to go down. So I'm not going to go on there, oh, boxing sucks, all of this. Now we can't get this fight. Man, if we can't get this fight, then we can't get the fight. Because Ryan, there's a ton of people that I want to see both of them fight. It's not like Spence and Bud, where they both cleared out the division at 147, and they're the only two left outside of the new up-and-coming guys. I'm talking about the seasoned guys, the guys that's been there, the Porters, the Ugases, the Kell Brooks, the Amir Khans, the guys that's been there for years, Keith Thurman. Well, Keith Thurman's going to get a shot. But all of those guys that's been around, those guys did their work already for the most part. They already cleared out most of these guys. I'm not talking about Boots, Virgil Ortiz, Stanionis. I'm not talking about them. They're the only two left. Ryan and Tank, if they don't fight, I'm like, so what? Fight Devin Haney. Fight Lomachenko. Shit, at least fight Shakur Stevenson. He's up there now. I watched these interviews. I saw a Tank interview with $1 million worth of game with Gilly and Wallow. I saw that too. And he's talking about, Shakur, don't say you can beat me or you want to fight me and then come out and I like that talk. But stop talking and fight him. If you beat this trial, fight him. If you can't work it out with Ryan Garcia, fight him. Fight him. Or is he not big enough? Do we got to marinate that one too? Or because he's not with PBC? What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing here? All right. So anyway, that's my stance on this. Regardless of what Oscar just said, these promoters, I don't believe them. Everything is calculated. I don't even believe the fighters. Everything is very calculated. So him posting that when he posted it, I'm sure it really means something. All right. They put out what they want us to argue about, what they want us to know. This could be part of a promotion on a fight that actually is signed and ready to go. Or this could be him backing out and wiping his hands with this situation and say, you know what? We try to make the fight, but we're done. Tank got this going on. They're not giving us a contract. He has his trial going on. We can no longer continue to wait and let Ryan sit back and wait. Because Ryan does need to be active, and he needs some better fights than Javier Fortuna and Emmanuel Tago. That's just not doing it. All right, so that's my stance on this. Please, again, if you like the content, smash the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I'm out of here. I'll see you guys on the Wave Report, on the next Wave Report. I'll see you soon. Peace.